That's canon.
Or
So you guys had the benefit of a long rest, and you're not being confined to quarters. You're told not to bother the crew over much unless you need to, and you're not being allowed down into their stores downstairs, which is where your weapons are being kept, and it's also the room that Steely is confined to.
So, uh, Alex, I don't know what questions to ask, but I do have questions, and maybe you can translate.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Is
there anyone? So aside from the captain, is there like a? What do I want to say here? Is there like a quartermaster or navigator, or is the captain really the only like person who's more than just a porter?
The captain kind of does all of that, and he doesn't do it well. Because remember, this is not meant to be an ocean-going vessel.
Right. Now, I was just seeing if there's any other like individuals on the ship that would be important to talk to.
that was going to lead into my questions. So thank you for asking that.
So what's next?
So it sounds like I'm translating questions for the captain.
Okay.
Well, like technical jargon, like say, okay, do they have any kind of sensory equipment, or is it just all like look out the porthole and see what we see?
They have. There's a lot on the ship that is psionically charged during its construction, and then attuned to the men who work it most. Which at this point, after this many years, would be this captain. What he's able to do is he knows with great accuracy the distance and the direction that he travels, and he has good maps.
Okay.
yeah, that's good.
However, none of these maps would have this impromptu hole from Dunfoss over top of it. These maps would not feature Dunfoss in any capacity.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Is
Is there any chance that Alex could overlay those with his own maps?
we have it on good authority. We have a copy of the most accurate map of the entire world.
Of the surface of the world.
You could if you kind of knew where you came down and knew how far and what direction you traveled once you arrived.
Do any of his maps include Deep Merksif?
Probably not, because Deep Merksif was in a mountainous area, not the Riverlands.
Yep.
He knows where it is to Deep Merksif, but he couldn't sail there, in other words.
Right.
That's fair.
Well, is there any way we could use the location of Deep Merksit in relation to a
To figure out Dunfoss's location from knowing Deep Merksif's?
from Deep Merksif to like a location he knows the distance of? So like if he knows Deep Merksif is 10,000 leagues that away, and can we then can Alexander do math? Can he do trigonometry to solve this problem is what I'm asking. Like if we know the location of several points and we have a third point that we know the general location of, can we use that to triangulate with some degree of accuracy on our good map?
It's better than flying blind, which is what you would kind of be doing otherwise. What he was trying to do is find the origin point of this water. But remember, the ocean water wasn't just like pouring in an endless waterfall. A lot of it was dispersing out and creating clouds, which were becoming terrible rainstorms.
Yeah.
So what he's been doing this past month or so is trying to find the origin point of this water. His people had thought it was bubbling up from below somehow, like there was a cataclysm in a great ocean beneath them somewhere, which would make a lot more sense to them. Your story is telling them the opposite has happened. That some kind of psionic attack happened in your city above, creating a hole, draining the ocean down into the Underdark. But knowing the locations of Deep Merksif and then the relative location of Dunfoss from there is better than nothing. So what he's going to try to do is sail based on that information you're showing him on your map to where Dunfoss ought to be, because that's where the hole should be above them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hole was pretty like we felt like it was a relatively straight drop too. We didn't have to twist around to avoid the running into the waters on the way down, right?
For a fair distance down, you could see the walls around you.
Yeah.
For a lot of the distance down, actually.
So at least for at least a lot of it, we think it's not twisting in any way. Should I try and make a cartographer's tools check?
No, this is just something that can happen over the course of days.
Okay.
I mean, you guys
Okay.
started at that point and sailed for 57 days. Probably not in a straight line, but
Yeah,
We tried.
we definitely tried.
Stupid fishmen.
where are we going aboard the vessels? Anybody? I mean, you're just staying in your rooms or speaking with the captain?
I mean, what do they do? They have shuffleboard?
They do have a gaming room.
Yeah, Alex will
Lucius
spend some
is
time in
absolute. Yeah, Lucius will go there too.
Okay, it's not a gaming room you're thinking. It's this small room here. I mean, they're all small rooms. It's a gnomish vessel.
Yeah.
Not gaming in the sense that you're thinking with cards and dice and whatnot. What they have are two large tables that look kind of like a tiered chessboard on either side. You're told the game is called Thampic. It's an extremely popular gnomish game, and the rules are very complex.
I'm very interested to learn.
Okay?
I'm thinking like gnomish shogi.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
maybe.
3D chess from Star Trek.
Has Alex heard of this game before?
Are you proficient in any kind of gaming tools?
I don't think so.
I'll say maybe
Yeah.
you've heard of it but have not learned how to play it.
Okay. Yeah, Lucius, if you want to learn how to play it, sounds like we've got some time. Let's play a few games.
So one of the boards they have is a traditional board, the kind that had been used for generations. And part of the game involves setting up a kind of like a stratego element, where you set up your side of the board with terrain and units, and the other person set up their side of the board with terrain and units. And the game actually got its genesis in the war against the Illithids.
Okay.
So it's a relatively new game within the past 100 years or so. The other board they have, it's the same game, but many of the components are mechanical. So the pieces are more ornate, and they actually can move along their squares along little tracks. So you guys are spending the day in the gaming room, learning how to play Thampic.
Yeah.
What about Connor and Gus? Numac is going to spend the time in meditation. He has much to think on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gus is
there
also
like-
going. Go ahead.
Is there like an observation deck of any kind? Stare out into the waters? Or is that only on like the bridge here?
So if you open up the checked curtain in your room, behind it is another one of these membranes. But you're told that this one will not respond to the opening wands. It's just there for you to look at. And there's not much to see right now. I mean, you can see the illumination of the vessel. And you can see the water moving across. And every so often, when they have to bring the vessel to surface in order to make their navigation mechanisms work, you can see the water playing across it. And the whole ship does continually rotate very slowly. So over the course of 5 or 6 minutes, the water drains off one side of the membrane and then starts filling up from the other again. I'm sorry, that's my phone ringing. I have to step away and take this call. This is a person I tried to call on the break. My heroin dealer. I'm out of heroin. So I'm sorry, I have to step away for 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Sure.
I mean,
Thought we were
I
about to
mean,
jump into
clearly-
combat there for a second.
yeah, I was about to say, like, what's our paradigm at right now? Need to get some savage.
No,
going.
that's not the start. That's like once you have all your buffs set up and are ready to go.
You're right.
That's like triple. That's what's the triple threat. 3 commando. Time to do
Yeah.
some damage.
Yep.
Reminds me of a conversation I had, like, where I can't tell you the name of a single song in Dragon Quest, but like I can name like 50 battle themes from Final Fantasy.
Dragon Quest songs don't have names.
I
First of all,
think-
there's only 2 of them.
it's like like every Dragon Quest soundtrack is like the same, like 15 songs with like 1 or 2 songs like flex for that specific game. I think the only one that has a name is probably Interlude, which is the trumpets.
Both of the dogs in this house are staring at the popcorn that I'm munching on.
All right, my many apologies. I'm sorry about that.
You're fine. You go, Papa.
As far as an observation deck, if you come out into the entrance area, it's this large open space where you guys first came in.
Hey, no.
There is essentially an opening, but it's not the same kind of membrane as you used to enter in. It's a large mechanical opening. It takes two of these gnomes to operate, one on either side. And Connor, when you inquire about it, you're told that two of the men will bring you up if you like.
Yeah, let's do that.
Then you're taken out here to this space, and it kind of works like a giant corkscrew. And that this thing winches outwards. And as it does, it tilts backwards, which is very disorienting for you because your gravity is now relative to just this circle rather than to this giant space. And it turns all the way over until you're standing out here on the surface of the vessel. You're submerged at the moment. So this number 2 is the circle that you came in on. This is a much larger area.
Right.
But what you're standing under is essentially this maybe 12 or 15 foot high dome of glass, crystalled glass. And it's an observation area, more or less.
Yeah.
Make
Connor.
let's make a perception check while you're out here.
Perception. Still at disadvantage too.
You're just very tired.
Just very tired. Yeah, that's a 7.
Okay. There's nothing else up here, but you're told that during regular operation, people will take meals out here. You could do dancing and banquets, and all kinds of luxurious hotel kind of stuff. But it looks much too large for that because the area out here is much larger than any of the individual rooms below. Most of the interior of the shell is just empty space. Only a small part of it is taken up with the actual rooms in the ship.
Yeah, Connor's gonna chill out on this observation deck because
Okay.
there's always been this wanderlust part of Connor, and he's now in a completely utter foreign area, and he's trying to get used to it and understand it as best he can.
As you're sailing, the ship doesn't have any, not giving off any light. It's almost completely dark. Do you have dark vision of any kind?
Yeah, I can cast the spell.
Do you though? While you're out here?
No.
Okay. Then there's really not much to see. There's no source of
Cast
light.
the spell. And he probably would. No, he can't because there are material components and he does not have them. All right. So he is staring into darkness then.
Okay. So there's not much to see, but once in a while the ship does need to surface a couple times every day, and when that happens, you can see the break of the water across the dome, the refraction of it. So yeah, it's a nice place, but it's difficult to get into and out of because people have to operate this mechanism that kind of flips over.
Wait, you're telling me you couldn't have brought a pinch of dried carrot from the, stores?
Yeah, I know.
What is Gus doing?
Gus is going to collect he's going to take Alexander's alchemy jug,
Okay.
and he's going to independently ask for an observation deck, and he's going to sit down and drink 5 gallons of ale.
Wow.
Or attempt to. That's how much it gives you, right?
Whole gallons of ale.
Connor,
Ale, let me look.
you've been up there for a little while, and after a few moments, the mechanism starts to turn back over. And you realize that you're not standing on it, which is a little disconcerting, because if it turns back over and you're still up here, you're trapped up here.
They wouldn't trap me in here.
Says
Would
Connor,
they?
Says Connor to himself as the mechanism completely rotates around, and then it begins rotating back. And when it does, you see Gus standing there with a jug of ale.
How much ale is in the?
You either get 4 gallons of beer or 1 gallon of wine.
Beer. 4 gallons of beer. I got 4 gallons of beer.
So that would kill you, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I said try.
Even if we split it equally, that would still probably kill
So-
us.
How dominable do you feel today?
Are you guys getting blotto up here? Is that the idea?
Gus is. He's just gonna sit up here and drink. He's had a very rough 57 days.
And there hasn't been any ale. It's always been mayonnaise.
It's been mayonnaise and honey.
That's not true.
Time.
There's totally a barrel that had beer and wine in them.
We drank that on the first day.
So
So you guys are
How
up
did you
there getting
drink-
blotto.
It was 4 gallons. It was supposed to last 2 weeks.
Connor was going to try to meditate for a little bit, but at the prospect of getting drunk, Gus, I don't know if Connor can resist that hard.
I feel I'm just picturing, remember that scene in Parks and Rec where they're hiking through the woods and she's like, "Oh, I packed you a snack, some bacon." He's like, "I found it and I already ate it and I hate everything." It's just Gus and the alcohol that Alex packed.
Okay.
I already drank it. But yeah, no, Gus is up here. He's getting he was gonna find some place alone to get drunk and wasn't expecting to find Connor, but
Okay.
like you said, 4 gallons of ale will kill him, so might as well split it.
So everybody can take the benefits of the long rest. Connor and Gus wake up the next day hungover. And now it's on your second day of this voyage. What's next?
I mean, do we have any other ideas about how to speed this up? I think we've pretty much.
What other amenities do they have aside from the gaming room and the observation deck?
So room 3 and 4 here
Mm-hmm.
are adjoined rooms, kind of a banquet or ballroom, which is not
Okay.
in use right now, but there are large circular tables, and in one corner of the room you see 2 large dumbwaiters, large enough to hold a gnome holding a tray of food that would connect down with the kitchens.
Yeah, Lucius is kind of going to take up, just checking out, just getting a feel for the ship. He'll stay out of people's way, but he's going to at least poke his head in each of the rooms.
Okay.
That he's allowed.
I mean, if Lucius doesn't want to continue playing this game, I think Alex will spend a day out on the observation deck.
Okay. Room 6 and 7 are captain and crew quarters. One for the captain,
Okay.
one for the officers. The rest of the crew have makeshift quarters in and around where this elevator is. I say elevator because I don't have another word for a giant disc that spins around to grant access to the observation deck.
Corkscrew?
Sure. Down below deck is storage and kitchen areas. And the makeshift brig where Steely is being held. And room number 8 is being kept under lock and key. And you're not sure what is in there.
Okay.
Are they evasive if we ask what's in the room?
You're essentially told that it's the captain's business.
Okay.
Depends on how far you want to press it.
I mean,
How much do we feel like being investigators today?
I mean, y'all still have layers of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Gus does not.
No, Lucius is very much of a mind to recover.
Yeah, it's we're not.
Yeah, Alex is just asking for a small decanter of their finest brandy, and he's gonna spend the morning up here,
Okay.
just watching things go by with his dark vision.
So Connor, they mentioned there was a game in there. You want to go see if we can't try to learn it? I'll let you I'll let you be the Tau. I can roll the Space Marines.
So when Alex and Lucius play this game, they play by the rules, and then Gus and Connor invent a less complicated game using the same pieces.
Wait, no, hold on. I have a response for this. That's Dallas, baby.
Oh no.
We just played Dallas the board game.
Go ahead and take another benefits of a long rest as the next day comes to a close. The following day, you're informed by the crew that the captain is abandoning this voyage to this position that you were headed towards, having triangulated using his navigation charts and Alex's maps, that the route has become too dangerous. They're turning around and making for a holdfast called Keegless. Usually there would be a large river port, but the whole town of it is flooded, and much of the surrounding area. Keegless is a holdfast up in the mountains nearby, and they're hoping it's still above the waterline. But yeah, the captain has lost his taste for looking for this hole to the softlands, and he's willing to bring you along to Keegless if it still stands, or put you back aboard your vessel if it's still there.
Why do you call it the Softlands? Like, what's the genesis of that name?
Just, it's softer than the Underdark. Lots of soft grasses and forests, a lot more water, oceans, bright sunlight, fluffy clouds.
I can
As
assure you there's plenty of hard things up there in the Softlands.
I assure you that we found out if you go fast enough when you're falling out of the sky, the ground is pretty hard.
Those clouds aren't so fluffy anymore. What's the nature of the danger?
We haven't really seen anything.
He tells you that as you're sailing in that direction, part of the vessel that you're in, because it's psionically charged, it is attuned to psionic disturbances. And it's getting strong enough that he's beginning to be uncomfortable with it.
That
Sounds like we're going to the right place.
Or-
yeah, that sounds like the
but
boat.
that makes sense because this isn't a warship; it's a pleasure barge.
I mean, the boat we're looking for is psionically charged.
He reminds you that he and his ship came out here to find the source of all of this water, to find what was causing the flooding. As he sailed in the direction that you determined, he's convinced that your story is true, or true enough as makes no difference. If you come with him to Keegless, they'll see if it still stands, and you might be able to tell your story to other people. Or
How many ships like this are even in this part of the Underdark? Like, what's the chances we get to Keegless and can find someone that can take us closer to this thing?
ships like this, he puffs his chest out and kind of worries at his mutton chops. And he tells you there's no ship like the Widdershins.
I
Not,
think
and I regret that we're going to be leaving. In that case,
Wait,
how are you, like, is there any way you could, how can we get the ability to detect this psychic disturbance so that we can track it down?
The disturbance that he's describing to you sounds similar to the one that you had already fought against in Dunfoss. Basically, he's honing in on where the water is coming from, and the closer he gets, the stronger this disturbance is. And he wants no part of it, basically. Whatever's still there, he doesn't want to have to fight it.
well, that's why we're here.
So, would you like to be placed back aboard the Cockatoo, if you can locate it?
I mean, we would have no way to get back here.
yeah, no. The thing is, we would need to be able to reprovision ourselves as well.
There's not much chance of that in Keegless. It's just a small mountain holdfast. He's not sure what other cities in the valley would still be unflooded.
Would we, if we go to this Keegless,
Mhm.
would we be able to find a vessel that will take us to where we need to go?
No, because Keegless is a mountain. It's a holdfast up in the hills above the valley.
Yeah,
They
there was
wouldn't have any ships of any kind, any seagoing vessels whatsoever.
Look, if you want to, if you want, look, it's great that you found it, but if you want to actually do something about that, it sounds like we're the only option right now.
You can get us there. If you could just get us to the front door, you can turn around and leave and go get help. And we'll do what we can to stop it and keep it from getting worse.
He tells you that's what he intends to do, is go get help.
Right, but while you're sailing around the other way, it's going to be getting
Okay,
worse.
so it sounds like you want to be put back aboard the Cockatoo then. He says that he might have some difficulty locating your vessel if it's drifted at all, or if it still floats. But if it does, he has no. I mean, you all seem to have rested up, and he can give you provisions as well and return your weapons to you. Wish you Godspeed.
Is there any way he could... I'm not against that if you could give us some way to track the phenomenon.
You'd need the kind of instruments that the Widdershins have and the Cockatoo doesn't.
I'm
Right.
not doing another 57 days on the Cockatoo.
Is there any way we could get these instruments in the holdfast?
He tells you that the Lady of Keegless is a frequent passenger aboard the Widdershins, that he knows her well, and that she has contacts in other nearby kingdoms. Presumably, those kingdoms are already being overrun with refugees from the flood. And many, many more have died for a certainty. But if Keegless still stands, that would be the first part of finding out who is left on the... Well, first of all, where is the shore of this new ocean that has been created? Who lives along its borders, and what kinds of people they are. And if they're free-thinking gnomes, you might have a chance of putting together something to fight this disturbance.
How far is Keegless, and how far are we from the... Like, right now, how far is each of those?
He had sailed quite a distance out from the river delta where he usually does his trade. But if he makes all speed, you could probably be in that area in 6 or 7 days.
And how far is it right now from where you expect the center of the disturbance to be, from where we are?
Further than that, probably.
Okay, let's head to Keegless.
Yeah.
He explains that usually when he sees these kind of disturbances... Well, no, he explains usually when ocean vessels see this kind of disturbances, you wouldn't see them often on the rivers. They come from underneath. And the fact that the disturbance is stronger at the level of the water is extremely disquieting, especially given the stories that you've told them. And whatever light love tapping you think you may have gotten in Dunfoss, you have to remember that the kingdoms of the Underdark have received much, much worse in their wars against psionics.
I mean, I'm very, very aware of that.
Is there any... So, like, if we found the Cockatoo,
Mhm.
is there any way to bring it aboard, or is it just too large? Because it's like, what? It's like a 20-foot vessel?
He wouldn't want to bring it aboard his vessel, no. He would offer to lash it to the ship and kind of tow it, but then he couldn't vouch for how safe it is when the Widdershin submerges.
I'm just worried about, like, we're going to be... Like, I'm worried, Alex, that if we go somewhere... If we go to this place, we're going to be stuck there with no boat.
Yep.
I mean, we're going to be stuck anywhere with no boat. By now, the Widdershins might be entirely underwater. So I didn't account for the fact that water level was rising when I moored it.
Yeah.
I assumed this was a fairly stable sea. That was my mistake.
All right.
The captain makes his apologies and tells you that he's come to understand that your cause is noble, and he's sure that you're concerned with the danger to your Softland kingdom, but it's not a kingdom he knows, and there's nobody there that gives him trade or homage.
Well, I mean, at this point, I'm more concerned danger to the Underdark. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of people down here that are
if the
dying.
psionic disturbance has fallen down that far, Dunfos might be fine. They'll have to build like a rail around the hole to keep ships from falling into it, but they can do that. Like, I'm more concerned that entire kingdoms are flooding down here. I'd like to do something about that.
They just rope it off and put up a sign, danger hole.
That
The chain
sounds-
worked so well the first time.
That sounds about like what we've seen. Yeah.
He asks you how long it would take for the entirety of the ocean above to drain out.
Who can really say how much water is up there?
Uh,
I do know that there is a. I do know that it is completely enclosed, and thus is a finite amount.
not necessarily. We're not sure that there aren't vortices to the elemental plane of water at the base of the ocean.
So
For all I know, that could happen forever. This entire part of the Underdark could be part of.
I love
become
getting actually. I
massive.
really love it. It feels really good. It feels really, really good.
So he's making sail for Keyless. So are you guys going to try to locate and salvage the parakeet?
Cockatoo.
That's what I said.
I think we should make it the attempt and then at least try to drag it along if we can. It's made out of gnomish aluminum. It should survive a slight beating, right?
Okay.
For the time being, though, I do have access to the dream spell still, I believe. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Can you tell people we're not dead with that?
I mean, it would be a dream, so it's up to them
Just-
whether they believe the dream or not.
Linda, we're not dead. Don't sell our stuff.
Who are you dreaming with?
Caitlin Chubb is probably the most
Oh, she'll charge us though.
probable.
I love the Chubbinator. Oh,
The Chubbinator?
she's my favorite NPC. She's
Either
incredible.
Why?
Either Caitlin,
I don't get it.
either Caitlin Chubb or Journey.
Journey would probably be the most receptive. The problem with Journey is she might react poorly to you going into her head.
Yeah.
Her stance on
you're
magic.
right.
We could do the king, but he might view that as an attack on himself, depending on because he seemed kind of afraid the last time we saw him.
Yeah.
Kind of afraid.
We don't really have anyone. We don't really know anyone else in the court, though.
Like I said, we could just do Linda. We could tell her. We could tell her we're not dead. We found. We're working on the problem, and please pass this along to Journey.
Okay. Lucius,
Okay, you could try my father. He actually is on the court. He actually might be even able to get us something through Deep Murksif. This isn't a spell you can cast on me, right? It has to be you?
It has to be me.
Thank every god.
I'm honestly surprised, Alex, that you would even suggest your father.
I know.
You or a willing creature you touch enters a trans state, acting as
Not
a
willing.
messenger.
I'm willing to do it. I'll
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
he's met
I'm not letting
my
you
dad.
do this. Jesus. Like I love you, Gustavus, but holy.
Oh, you love me?
so you're contacting Linda, bringing her up to speed.
We could
No, I
actually do
think that-
multiple, can't we? I mean, we've still
As long
got
as I
days
have-
aboard.
We're just talking about one this night tonight.
We've got days
No, I
travel,
think,
right?
I'm thinking. Can I finish a thought, please? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, my thought is Alexander brings up a cogent point of bringing up of getting in touch with his father.
Okay, is that how you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me 1 second.
I actually think since we have several days on the boat,
Or just talk about tonight. This one night.
right? One night, gotcha.
You don't get several days in the course of one night. You can shape the dream to look like whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay. So you shape the dream and contact Ambassador Flintraker.
And the dream looks like the veranda at his family home outside of Dunfoss.
Lucius's home?
Yeah,
Okay.
his family's home.
And he recognizes you as your son's detective friend, business partner.
Yep.
And, I mean, his disposition towards you is probably fairly chilly because you've also turned your back on a fine, noble lineage in order to live in a dirty barge.
Yeah, no, he's right.
So what is it you tell him?
That after the incident with the ship involving the alleged former king of Dunfoss, we mounted an expedition down there to try and root out whatever's causing this thing to drain and to stop people from throwing themselves in. And we were adrift on a new sea in the Underdark for 57 days.
He says that he might have thought that his son had something to do with all this.
That's not an unreasonable assumption to be made. Yes.
So conditions in Dunfoss are pretty dire at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the harbor is completely drained away. And the ocean continually spilled into the harbor, doing more and more damage. It was impossible to staunch the flow into the hole. However, there is the old wreckage of a seawall out beyond where the chain would be in the Dunfoss harbor, the chain that they never keep winched out. And after the first week or so, the water level was low enough that new water in the ocean would only roll over during high tide. The king ordered that the seawall be raised to stop the water from flowing in for the time being, so they can salvage what wrecks there were down in the basin and see about constructing a way to stop up this hole. But it had never been the case that people stopped throwing themselves in, to the point that when there was relatively just land and mud and rock down there, little shanty towns would show up. And bizarre worshippers had begun to appear.
Anything? Okay. Sounds like if anything, it's getting worse.
People are continuing to throw themselves into this hole. But from what you've heard is at high tide, there is still great danger of water either breaking through sabotaged parts of the seawall or overflowing it entirely. But the continuous flow of seawater into the hole is done. That part of the danger, to you at least, is over after the first week and a half or so.
Okay, so for the most part, except during high tide, new water should stop flowing in.
The king has ordered the old seawall to be built up. The seawall is so old that most people didn't even know it was down there. The construction of it is from time immemorial.
Okay.
And as it was constructed up, this other faction of these worshippers would sabotage it or try to bring it down.
Lucius will inform him of what our current plans are to go to this holdfast and see about see about getting any kind of assistance we can together to press our investigation and deal with this problem at its source.
He thinks on the word for a moment. The name of the holdfast. Seaglis was an elven province, in my recollection. In Alnaic. Alnaic is many hundreds of leagues away from Deep Merksif.
It must have drifted further than we thought. Still, any aid that you might be able to arrange for us from Deep Merksif would be much appreciated.
To that end, he asks if what aid he's been able to get has been minor, if any. And your story kind of explains why.
Mhm.
Deep Merksif would be far away from this flooding, but
Yeah.
the impact of it would have been heard of by now. Should he direct these efforts towards you in some way, or should he direct them towards the city of Dunfoss? In other words, he has, say, 1 unit of help that he might be able to offer. Should he use it to assist you and your crew, or should he use it to save lives in the city?
My preference is to save lives in the city.
He tells you that his fool son could have done well to tell me all this himself.
With respect, sir, I wanted to be able to pass on the information without you spending the two of you spending precious time of this magic to consumed in argument.
He laughs to himself. Respect. If Alexander showed me respect, it would be the first time.
Why, I'm showing you respect.
Other than that, the conversation isn't very fruitful.
Okay.
He tells you that whatever power his office has as ambassador, he's going to bend towards assistance in Dunfoss. Notably, though, I'm sorry, I have to look up my notes here. This is from a few weeks ago now, if I can find it.
If anything, the news from home is much appreciated.
He's able to tell you that much. I have a whole directory that whenever I just have like a scratch text file, I never delete them. I just save them under nonsense words. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I have hundreds of them now. Like, I just saw the word hookshologist again.
Excellent.
I can't find his name, but the gnome that had come to you from Merksif originally.
Yeah.
Grimgold.
Grimgold, there it is. The ambassador doesn't even seem to be aware of his presence when you're speaking to him.
Okay.
So you relay the information about what's happening in Dunfoss to the rest of your companions? Okay.
Yep.
So the good news is that you can pass on to the captain is that the water level has either stopped rising or should stop rising shortly.
It has staunched.
And then over the next long seasons should drain away into flood basins and whatnot in the valleys as it drains down into whatever subterranean oceans are below them here.
The Underdark is weird.
This doesn't change his desire to seek out the Holdfast Keekless.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But yeah, no, Lucius will definitely pass on that information that it's being staunched, that efforts are underway on the surface to staunch the flow of water.
Okay. All right, everybody take the benefits of one more long rest. And the next day, instead of being woken up by a soft knock on the door and an offer of morning coffee and fresh biscuits, hogback, instead you're awoken when the entire vessel is jostled sharply, as though impacted by something along one of its sides.
Lucius staggers out of his cabin.
Alex immediately starts running to the hold.
Okay.
Gus rolls out and says, "I'll be right behind you." He starts putting his armor on.
Okay.
Get your hammer.
The door to room 8 is open at this point. And when you step out into the hallway, you see two of the crew standing on either side of the door, holding these harpoons, looking fairly terrified. And more, you hear more shouting in Undercommon, people shouting over each other up here in the bridge.
Gus, give me your cloak. Just do it.
Okay.
It's an artificer infused item. I can cast spells with it.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex then throws the cloak over his own shoulder and rushes to the aid of the gnomes.
So Alex is heading up to the bridge.
Oh, is it up, not down? I thought they were. Oh,
The
wait.
bridge
So
is-
where's?
The bridge is
I
upstairs.
thought they
and
were.
it's
I
empty.
thought it was in the door to 6. They're on. Okay, yeah.
This-
Alex went to the bridge.
The door to room 8, which you've not been allowed into so
Right,
far,
is
is
open.
open and has two.
Sorry, I
guards
thought
on the
that's
side.
where they were, but no. Yeah, Alex will head towards the gnomes.
Okay. The captain sees you enter, and he's arguing with a couple of his crewmates. Turns towards you, says, "Widowshins is being held fast by one of the deep ones."
Which deep one?
He says
Probably
he isn't
gonna need-
sure. He's going to surface the vessel and see if that breaks the connection.
Should I have my companions get their gear?
Well, Lucius did swear us his blade. And he nods, tells one of his crewmates to go down below decks. Says after you're properly geared, sorry, one moment. After you're properly geared, he says you're going to want to report to the fitting room. It's painful,
one's
but
that?
I assure you it's safe and may keep you safer during the attack. He's talking about room 8.
All right. Alex will relay that, and let's see. So you're putting on your armor, Gus.
Yeah.
Wants to come down. Oh, you know what? I'll get my bag and I'll get Steely, and we can carry all our stuff back.
Yeah.
As you're making your way down below deck, the ship continues to jostle violently. One of the crew takes you down below deck. Everyone can get their equipment, their weaponry back, as well as Numac and Steely. The entire crew seems terrified, and the captain seems to be composing himself fairly well. But he's kind of the only one. I'll
When
take an
Alex,
insight check from somebody who's not Alex and who's not Gus.
All right.
when Alex
I
gets
don't-
back up, he throws the cloak over Gus and helps him finish putting on his armor.
This is not at disadvantage.
Ooh,
And it's a 2, it's a 2, it's a 2.
awesome. Okay.
Lucius's insight is a 18.
As you guys are getting geared up and provisioned, the captain comes down the stairs, and every so often you see a crewman go into what's called the fitting room. And when he comes back out, again, they're girded in there. They have this ornate scale armor and these half helms armed with these harpoons. But as they come out of this room, all of them are holding the back of their necks. The captain brings you up to speed, tells you that the deep ones have a long, storied history of destroying the mind first.
Okay. How do we defend from it?
He shows you into the fitting room, and first of all, the fitting room is more of an armory. This is where you see extra sets of gnomish-sized equipment. There's another rack of harpoons here, and there's a small set of artillery of some kind. You haven't seen a firing mechanism for it, but similar to what you might fire out of your ballista if your ballista was fired by dragon powder. In one corner of the room is a small stool. And on the wall next to the stool are tools hanging on the wall. One is a small hammer. The other looks like a pair of pliers. And it's labeled. The hammer is labeled Inzi. and the small hammer is labeled outsy.
Outsy, yeah.
And Gus is standing there, so he's waved over first, kind of impatiently by the crewman.
Gus sits on the thing.
And he says something to you in Undercommon that you don't understand.
What is it?
Oh, you're back up?
I mean, if Gus is ready, because I was helping Gus put on his armor, so yeah.
Yeah, he's telling Gus to bend his head forward as far as he can and stoop down.
Gus, put your head down.
Gus follows instructions.
And so Connor and Alex are standing in the doorway, and you watch as this guy pulls out what looks like a slender nail and holds it to the back of Gus's neck, then reaches up for the hammer labeled Inzi.
What's happening?
Hold still.
And then Gus, you feel an incredibly sharp pain as this guy bangs the back of your neck with a hammer.
Gus lets out several curses in Dwarvish.
And yeah, as he takes his hand away, I mean, you have something pounded into the back of your neck now. This little metal sliver. And you're bleeding back there, but otherwise you don't feel any different.
That wasn't such a chore.
You stand up and make your way towards the door, and this is when you start feeling different. All of the muscles in your body feel like spaghetti noodles, wobbly. Like you feel every pound of weight of your armor very, very heavily. You kind of woozy and zigzagging. Your head feels cramped and stuffed with cotton as you make your way back to the door.
I think I'm gonna throw up.
And
Ugh.
man points to Connor, waves him in impatiently.
Connor gives a helpless look to Alex as he goes into the room.
Hey, if it helps, it's psionic bullshit. It's not Fey bullshit. Alex will whisper. What is there a language that you and I both speak that the gnomes don't? I guess I'll just think that loudly.
Yeah, I was like we're telepathic, so it's.
So yeah, Connor, over the course of the minute, the man takes the hammer labeled Inzi, washes it off with some kind of sweet-smelling solution, and then produces another one of these slivers and gives you the order that you don't understand, but as soon as you heard Gus hear it...
Before that happens, he grabs one of his arrows and he bites he bites as hard as he can.
And the same thing happens. You don't even feel the sliver on the back of your neck. You just feel the tap of the hammer back there, and then this sharp pain. And then as you stand for a few moments, it feels like none of your muscles are responding. Like your whole body is lagging behind you by a second or two, like you're dragging it along.
Alex is helping Gus get his flask out of his equipment and get it to his lips. And as he passes Connor, he hands him a cigarette.
Connor removes the arrow, grabs the cigarette.
Alex, you don't have to
walks out.
You don't have to stoop down, but you are bend your head forward. The same thing, you feel the tap of the hammer labeled Inzi on the back of your neck. And the same wooziness as you emerge from the door.
And on his way out, does it affect Autonomon? Should I send the Badger in?
No, but they need, if Lucius and Numek are going to...
Lucius is in for a penny, I guess.
Okay. So yeah, Lucius, same thing. They bid you to stoop down on your knees, bend your head forward. You feel the tap of the hammer on the back of your neck. And when you stand up, your neck is bleeding.
The tap of the hammer.
Something has been... When you reach back, I mean, you can feel metal or something amidst your flesh. Presumably so the pliers labeled out so you can pull it out later.
Lucius rubs his neck and says, I feel like this is something... Like, if nothing else, it, made me dumber, so I don't know.
By the time Lucius emerges from the room, Gus, you were the first one to meet Inzi. And you don't feel woozy anymore. You can still feel the effects of it, but you're acclimating to it. Kind of like playing a video game you're familiar with a controller you've only used for a few minutes.
Yeah, Gus pulls his
like,
hammer.
Instead of just when you go to pull your hammer out, instead of just reaching for it and grabbing it kind of instinctively, you feel your brain tell the muscles in your arm to move, and then the muscles in your fingers to open and wrap around the shaft of the hammer and then lift it up. And as you do, you feel the muscles calculating the weight of the hammer, how much force is needed. You're just hyper aware of all of this, whereas normally it would just happen on instinct.
Right, yeah. So Gus kind of walks in the other room and he just kind of takes a couple. He's just practicing with his sword, with his hammer and shield, just to get used to the feeling.
Yeah,
as
you're
best
not
he can.
suffering any detriment. You're not going to be in any kind of mechanical penalty or anything.
Right.
And Lucius takes the scepter from Alexander and shakes his head, shakes everything off.
Alex opens up the book. Do you want to get started on water breathing? I don't know how long we got, but
Lucius flips it open, starts paging through it.